Continental is celebrating 75 years in South Africa. Over the decades, their tires have been fitted as standard equipment to some very special vehicles. In this special SentiMETAL series, we're featuring some classics, some modern classics, and in this case, a modern classic off-roader fitted with Continental tires.
I've never been a big fan of supercars, and if I was, maybe a Lamborghini on my wall, but I never really got the appeal of a Porsche. They looked like really special, slippery versions of Beetles, and I wasn't entirely blown away with them.
Cars.co.za.
Until I got to drive my first 911, and I was blown away, the balance, the prestige, and I went from respecting the brand to loving it. Hi, I'm Calvin Fisher, and this is my 2010 Porsche Cayenne 3-liter turbo diesel. I'm a big fan of the Cayenne, especially initially the original one, bit of a big-faced 955 fan. But then I feel like the guys at Porsche's Cayenne styling department knocked on the door at the 911 department and said, guys, we messed up, we need your help, just getting the exterior right. And I think they nailed it. And that led to my car, the 957, the facelift, where I think they completely nailed the aesthetic. Then there's the fact that my particular model is the 3-liter turbo diesel, so I could actually afford to run this thing. It's essentially the same engine as the V6 Amarok, but where that car makes over 190 kilowatts, this is just under 180 kilowatts, which is more than enough. There is the magic button, as I call the sport button, because ultimately this car is meant to live on the dirt, sure, but also the road. So just now having come up Guido Pass, just it reminds me of what a great handling machine this is, despite its size. Stick it in sport, put my foot down, and she goes very, very well indeed. Then there's the fact that it's got the more basic and less fickle steel springs and not the air suspension, which again meant I could probably afford this thing. And I could certainly enjoy it in the lifestyle that I like, which is camping and tenting and bike rides in the middle of nowhere, just a lot of gravel travel. But I always thought that if I could buy one for myself, a car that I could look back at every time I parked the car, I'd want a 957. That for me is the perfect Cayenne. I wouldn't buy a new one even if I could afford it, but this car has always spoken to me. And I can put my foot down, I can gun it. So I grew up on the Kite Flats. Way back then, so this is like early 90s, the car culture scene that I was growing into was very much on the street. It was hookups, it was, let's call them informal race meetups, and I grew up in that kind of culture, and I love that culture. So cars that appealed to me back then, it wasn't your supercars. It was like your Nissan Skyline 2.8s, even a Cressida 24 valve. And for us, freedom meant car keys and a full tank of gas. In fact, not even a full tank, just any petrol, and you were out of there. The thing I love the most about the Cayenne must be the freedom that comes with it. Just knowing that if I see a place, I can go there. I've tested it. I've been to places with this car that I would never have been able to, not even my previous SUV, because this is a real 4x4 at the end of the day. And I treat it as such. My earliest car memories, I guess, is the backseat of my dad's Chevy, family road trips, and that's really stuck with me. We're not a small family. It's my wife and I, and 3 large boys. They are my boys after all. And we go everywhere with it. It's part of our DNA now. Cayenne is essentially part of the family. Let's just say it's not your typical South African 4x4, and certainly not something you'll see at one of our local campsites. My plan with the Cayenne was never to conform, to that South African SUV standard of climbing pavements at shopping lots. I wanted to go places with it, and I did. I've done trips to the Tankwa via the R355, a road famous for chewing up tires. I've camped in all kinds of places, a lot of it via a lot of gravel. And she's held up perfectly. All I've needed to do, or insisted on doing, was fitting a roof rack. And I even fitted an Android Auto navigation system to the car as well, so I could have offline maps and all my music just a couple of swipes away. So I feel like it's really updated the Cayenne and made it feel modern in the ways that I want it to be, while it still feels classic in other ways. And about that, it's the 20th anniversary of the Cayenne. Yeah, we use this car the way you'd see it being used in a brochure, and not the way you'd see it at the mall. Then there's the fact that we're not worrying about how I'm gonna get there, how I'm gonna get my gear back again. That's that daily driver aspect that the Porsche Cayenne just blows me away. Not only is it perfect for day-to-day life, but I'm still parking it, taking a couple of steps and spinning around and having a look at it, and I can't believe that's mine. Like, this might be the first sensible decision that's also a passionate one for me. And I need to have a connection to the cars that I drive. I've got an old Supra, I've got an old Chevy, I like old things, even my bicycle's like 23 years old. So I was lucky enough to find a lowish mileage model. This one had 120,000 Ks on the clock. It's a 2010 model, so that's kind of a miracle. And in the last 8 months, I've managed to put on another 15,000 kilometers, which is strange because I thought I wasn't going to use it so much. But I can't help myself. I'm constantly in this thing. Even if I've got access to another car, I still tend to gravitate towards this. It's just so good at eating up the mileage. Anyone with the money can buy one. For me, it's a journey and a culmination of being a kid on the flats who wished of having, a little Opel Kadett or something similar. To go from that to having something that makes me feel this good, that to me looks brilliant, and that I can carry my family off on several adventures a year. That is everything to me. It's perfect. I love this thing. I can't imagine life without it anymore.
Cars.co.za.
Do you like clothes? I do. This is available right now on our SentiMETAL shop. Just go to Cars.co.za/shop or look for the description in the link below. See what I did there? Just trying to catch you out. And we've got tons of exclusive merchandise which is designed and made exclusively for our store. I said exclusive twice because it's very exclusive. Also hats.